Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This one comes from James A. Recently, the MPAA rated the new Marilyn Monroe biopic starring Ana De Armas, Blonde, an NC-17 rating. And generally, this rating is considered the kiss of death to films, and when they release in theaters, little to no money is made. But considering Netflix are the ones distributing this film, one can only question whether or not they will push for a change to an R rating or leave the film at NC-17 and just release it onto their streaming service. Thoughts?
All right, thanks a lot for sending this in. And yeah, so Ana De Armas, who's one of the hottest careers right now in Hollywood. She's just skyrocketed in popularity, even getting some studios sued for putting her in a trailer that doesn't actually end up being in a movie. But that's an issue for another time. We've known for some time that she's starring in this Marilyn Monroe biopic, which Jamie Lee Curtis saw. Because I know some people thought, like, we love Ana De Armas. Can she be Marilyn Monroe? Well, Jamie Lee Curtis saw it, and she said, oh my effing God, she is so Marilyn Monroe, which is kind of cool to hear. Now, of course, a lot of people raised their eyebrows when they heard that it got an NC-17 rating. Now, that was a rumor for quite a while. However, it was confirmed by the director. This comes us from the folks at IndieWire, right? The following. It's an NC-17 movie about Marilyn Monroe. It's kind of what you want, right? I want to go see the NC-17 version of a Marilyn Monroe story, Andrew Dominic said. He's the director. Additionally, Dominic noted that streaming giant Netflix insisted on hiring Tenet editor Jennifer Lame to curb the excess of the movie, which has delayed its release. Regardless, Dominic noted that he has nothing but gratitude for Netflix overall. All right, there's a couple of really interesting things that come out in that comment. Number one, yes, he made it NC-17. But number two, it may not be NC-17 by the time we see it. Because when he says that the version they played on some of the festival circuit, Netflix has insisted to bring in an editor to cut out what they call the excess. Now, excess could mean a couple of different things. It might just mean this movie is too long for what it is. We need to pare it down a bit. Or it could mean the excess of the stuff that moves it from an R-rated thing into an NC-17 rated thing. Now, it should also be pointed out that an NC-17 does not automatically mean porn. It could get an NC-17 for other things as well. For example, it's talked about in this article on IndieWire that there are some very disturbing scenes in this movie, including scenes of Marilyn being played by Anna, being raped by a studio executive and stuff like that. Some really, really harsh stuff. So it may not just be the tantalizing idea of things that might be NC-17. Although, admittedly, when you read the director's comment, says it's an NC-17 movie of Marilyn Monroe. It's kind of what you want, right? I mean, so maybe he is hinting there is a bit of that tantalizing stuff in there as well. Maybe he's suggesting that. Or he might be being facetious and a little bit sarcastic in saying that. I only read the comment. I didn't hear the tone of his comment. So it might have been actually quite sarcastic the way he said it. I'm not so sure. So it may have gotten the NC-17 rating for, a lot of explicit stuff. They may have felt like certain scenes needed that actual authentic sensuality to make a scene work. And maybe that's it. Or maybe got NC-17 for some really disturbing things. Because he wants to remind us that the life of Norma Jean was not all,
it could be extreme
and glory.
Drug use too, like a Requiem for a Dream situation.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So we don't know. But it sounds like whatever that version was that Jamie Lee Curtis saw, it's probably not the final product we're going to see because it sounds like Netflix wants to shave it down a bit. By the way, it should also be pointed out, there really is no rating for Netflix movies. The MPAA gives ratings for movies that are going to play in theaters. So ultimately, whatever cut Netflix comes up with, it's probably not going to have an MPAA rating on it anyway, regardless. But it's probably not going to be that extreme version that a Jamie Lee Curtis saw. That's my thought at any rate. Rob, you're hearing these comments coming out. I mean, for sure, if this was going to be a theatrical release film, you cannot have an NC-17. The thing's going to tank. Most theaters won't even play it, blah, blah, blah. That would be a death stroke. It doesn't really matter for Netflix. What about this story to you stood out the most the more you listen to? What stands out to you?
Well, here's the thing. I think that the content of a film should best serve the story that's being told. And I think that you run the risk, we're celebrating some people are, the 30th anniversary of Basic Instinct. I know that I am. And,
celebrate it.
But I think in the story,
That's a great question, Chris.
What do you do, Rob?
How does one celebrate a movie like Basic Instinct, Rob?
By
you
getting the
watch
hot
it again.
toys.
You watch
By
it in
getting the
4K.
hot toys.
By getting the hot toy.
But no. Now I'm off my game. No, but I think that, look, like you said, John, Marilyn Monroe had a fascinating and also tragic life, and she was, she was perhaps the ultimate fantasy actress that ever existed. She was all things to all people. Men, certainly, she represented something that was probably unattainable that she herself knew, which is why she had such a tragic life, really. So it's not an easy story to tell. And I think that, we become a little infantilized in our culture here. And I think that Andrew Dominik is a very talented director, and he probably really delved into these things and didn't flinch. Showed us. I mean, I would hope that it's not some lascivious thing. The way he talked, it could be. I hope it's not just that. So it's a cautionary tale, I would imagine. Is it necessary? I don't know. Why they feel the need to edit a film like this to take out something, I don't know that either. That's concerning to me. But
That's
look,
basically what every studio does, though.
it's true. But if again, they knew what movie he was making, and if it's NC-17, she had to sign up for whatever it was that they did. And if she threw herself into a role and it got an NC-17 rating, that's a fearless thing for an actress to do. So I would hope that, that great work was not sacrificed for what. But again, having never seen it, I don't know. But look, at the end of the day, if this is a great portrayal of what happened to Marilyn Monroe and her legend, and celebrating her talent as well, because she was an incredibly gifted actress. A lot of people forget that. She wasn't just a blonde bombshell. She was a great performer. First time I saw her in a movie was in All About Eve, where she plays a
so
bit
good
role.
in that.
And it's one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite screenplays. But look, I'm just looking forward to the movie. I can't wait.
Aaron, you're hearing this story. There's a lot packed in there. NC-17, Netflix going to edit it, the source material, stuff like that. Anyway, you hear about this. What stands out to you?
Okay. I'm going to try to keep it together because my mom and I were driving the car and she was reading the topics. And as soon as she read the director's quote,
Yeah.
it makes me physically ill because, if you were watching Pam and Tommy, which I already said, I just couldn't watch. I tried to watch it, but it was so horrible to watch the retelling with a different lens. I think we know a lot more now about, what people have experienced in Hollywood and the version that's told to the public versus what's going on behind the scenes. And right, it cannot be overstated how tragic Marilyn Monroe's life was, and that despite the fact that she studied at the Actors Studio under Stanislavski and that she desperately wanted to be seen as a serious actress, and the things that she had to do, and one can make the argument of, well, she chose to do those things, right? But what about the studio heads that wouldn't allow her talent to show through unless she did those things? It's like there's no blame for that. And it's just so insanely for him to say, this is what we want to see. It really does lend itself to the imagination of that it is lascivious. And that's the thing. If it weren't for that quote, and here's the thing, I really think that Andrew Dominik is an incredibly talented director. If you haven't seen Chopper, oh my God, it is one of the best movies ever. And it is insanely graphic. It is such a brilliantly directed film. And it's really hard to watch from a standpoint of violence.
Yeah.
And so if this were depicting the challenges that she went through with her drug use, with her trauma of being raped, and also I don't think that we need to. I don't want to see a woman being raped. I don't want to see that. Just like I don't want to see a child being beaten. I can understand that is what happened, or that is what is happening, without you showing it to me. I just don't need to see that. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are some people that are like, no, I really need to see that child being beaten to understand how traumatizing that would be for that child. I don't personally need to see that to understand that trauma. So, I don't know. This already is really upsetting to me. And I feel like Marilyn Monroe's life she was so victimized when she was alive. I just want to see her portrayed in I don't need to see an actress's tits, and I don't need to see her naked. I can go to, Pornhub if I want to see tits and ass. I just want to see the portrayal of a woman who was so tragically misunderstood and so tragically abused by a system that, while it pulled her up, it also crushed her in so many disgusting ways. I want to see that story, and I don't need to see her splayed open, in so many ways, metaphorically and physically, in order to understand that. So I really hope that he walks back that quote and explains what he meant, and hopefully it means something else, because the way that he said it, especially from the director, it doesn't sell me on it. Really doesn't make me want to see it.
Well, again, I didn't hear him say it, but when you read the rest of the article and you're hearing about how it's important to understand that the monsters that surrounded her and the childhood trauma she faced, blah, blah, I have a feeling, although I cannot say this definitively, the way I read it sounded like he was saying that sarcastically. I mean, but I might be wrong about that, but from everything I understand about the movie, that's what it sounds like. And I don't know, like sometimes, let me give you an example. What was that one Peter Jackson movie he did where the little girl got murdered?
Heavenly Creatures.
No. The little girl got murdered, and then the story's
the
about
Lovely Bones.
Lovely Bones,
Lovely
thank
Bones,
you. Where Stanley Tucci murders the little girl, right? I remember when I saw that movie, one of my comments coming out of it was, I almost feel like, and hear me out completely before you jump to any conclusions about what it is I'm saying. I remember after I watched that movie, I felt like we never got to see Stanley Tucci being the monster. They just told us he's the monster, right? And I said later on, I almost feel like I would have been more emotionally invested in stop this asshole if they had let me experience, as the audience member, a bit of that terror, a bit of that horror, a bit of that, to see him being the monster bit. It might have gotten me emotionally, it might have changed the experience for me a little bit more, because for the rest of the Lovely Bones, for the rest of it, I just it felt a little bit muted to me in that sense. Again, how much that resonates with other people who watch the movie.
What about Hannibal Lecter?
I'm not sure what you mean.
We never see Hannibal Lecter actually attacking anyone. We never see him actually doing.
Well, we actually saw him cut open Ray Liotta's head and carve out pieces of his brain and eat it. I mean, so
In the third movie.
well, yeah, in the third movie, right?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not making an argument here about what other people should think. I'm simply telling you what my experience watching the movie was I feel like if I had got to, as an audience member, experience a bit of him being that monster, I might have been able to emotionally invest myself a little bit more. But then again,
I think your point's well taken, though, because if you can't, the question is the depiction of horror and what people do to one another. How far do you go? And I think, like what you said, like I there is not that moment which in a way could be even more chilling, that you don't see something like that
Exactly.
happen.
We're also
It makes
talking
me-
about
Yeah, no,
a
it
real
can be,
person.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the difference, though.
And-
We're talking about a real person who actually existed, who has a legacy that is, So,
But I mean, I think that depending on how it's depicted and what happened to somebody, I think sometimes it depends what the point of the movie is.
and that's saying we are talking about a movie we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah.
So
and,
you're right.
The accused, I have a real hard time watching sexual violence against women.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to watch Gaspar Noé's Irreversible. There's a 10-minute rape scene in that movie I cannot watch.
is that the one with Monica Bellucci?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I cannot watch it. The rest of the movie it's a beautifully made film, but I can't watch that scene. And I just can't. And I can't. And The Accused is borderline for me. I have a hard time with that as well. But you couldn't make The Accused without having that scene in it. You have to show the horror of what goes on to understand. And it depends how the depiction is handled. And I think the rest of the movie is going to play a part in that. And like you said, we can't see it, but what is the responsibility of a filmmaker to art? What is the responsibility of an actress to play a part? I think there's a lot that comes into play. And by all accounts, this movie is supposed to be quite good. I've read
That's
things
what we're
about
hearing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but if it is good, and if it delves into a lot of different things, maybe these depictions are necessary, and maybe it works for the betterment of the movie itself.
And that's the fine line this film is going to have to walk, right?
Yeah.
When is something too exploitative about a person who was exploited their entire life? When do we cross that line as artists, as viewers who then are part of this voyeuristic look into
'Cause we're
what happened?
complicit after the fact.
Exactly. And everyone was part of her downfall when you really think about it. The studios, the people around her, everyone was involved. When John brought up the Lovely Bones thing and being more aware of some of the cruelty that happened, the first thing that came into my mind was the rape of Sansa Stark. And I'm very sorry for
right.
anyone listening to if this is a very triggering topic for you. I really hope you're okay. And if you need to take a break, you got to take a break. But that scene, we didn't see any of that, right? But we knew what was happening. We heard Sansa scream like, no. We knew what was occurring.
Horrific.
And that shook me. In the same way, when you go into the theater of your own mind and you decide what's happening, it's often more horrendous. So that's something that I think is just the line we've got to walk here. And I'm very much with Aaron on this too. The quote, as it is, just feels very wrong. And I'm hoping that this is not the exploitative nature of this. And I'm really hoping, chat too, like, yeah, NC-17 doesn't just mean tits and ass and dong are in here. You guys, it could mean some really graphic drug use. It could be some really disturbing images. It's a woman who ended up taking her own life, you know? So
Allegedly.
Right.
It's
And
true.
that could be part of it too. I mean, that kind of a depiction, it's hardcore, man. When
Yeah.
you
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, it's not about policing art. It's about recognizing that this is a real person we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a real person. It's not a fictional character.
Yeah.
She's not. She's a real person.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you make of this story when you're reading through it, the NC-17, the Netflix wants to edit some of it down, all that kind of stuff? What part of the story stands out to you? Where does the line get drawn between artistic expression versus the human experience? How much should a director try to impact the experience of the audience? Into which way should they do it or not do it? How do you guys feel about that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down into the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. We want to thank the sponsor of today's video, MeUndies. What's something you look forward to waking up to every morning? Is it coffee, your pet? Maybe it's the face of someone you love. Well, MeUndies wants to add to that list. Start your mornings with your favorite underwear. And not just any underwear, but ridiculously soft undies with ridiculous prints that make picking out underwear actually fun. Because MeUndies makes the softest fabrics you've ever put on your body. So you can sit on your couch all day or go out and live your comfiest life. Once you try their undies, socks, bralettes, and longwear, you will never go back. Choose from a range of limited edition prints and colors and sizes that go from extra small all the way up to 4XL. You can also sign up for their free to join MeUndies membership, where you get a monthly subscription that sends new styles right to your door. Plus, enjoy discounted pricing, free shipping, and exclusive early access to new launches. And listen, MeUndies has a great offer for my listeners. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off and free shipping. MeUndies also gives you this promise. If you're not satisfied with any product for any reason, you can return your order for a full refund within 45 days. To get your 15% off your first order and free shipping, just go to MeUndies.com/Campea. That's MeUndies.com/Campea.